Hello, and welcome back to Growing Through the Vents. This is Anitra, and welcome to episode 4. You know what, guys? I had this whole episode basically completely outlined, almost. I have to have an outline, or we would just have to jump from topic to topic and not really get anywhere. I'll probably still record the other outline, but I kind of just started it over because it's something really important to me. And because of its importance, I want to make sure I'm really clear about some things. And I'm trying to figure out the areas I need to iron out a little bit better. So we're going to have to come back to that conversation. And this is a new conversation. This episode is also important and something that has been very reflective for me lately, but nonetheless, I am so sorry for the delay. And I'm really glad you're back and that we're here chatting, but let's catch up a little bit. I was in Florida when I dropped episode 3. My family took my grandma on her very first trip to Disney World, which was amazing, absolutely wonderful, great time, and I truly never want to come back home when I'm out there. But then we did fly back home to Kansas City, and I started training with a new company for the new store that I'll be managing. And there's been so many birthdays the past week. And I was supposed to be in San Diego right now and then tested positive for COVID. Though I've not really had a whole lot of symptoms, thankfully. I am still here in Kansas City, which at first I was straight up pissed off. It was one of my best friend's birthday. We have low-key been hyped about this trip for damn near a year. I invested a whole lot of me, including money, into it, and honestly was just ready for a good time. If you know me, you know a good view can still my heart, but a large body of water helps keep me grounded. I don't know if you're into astrology, but I'm a Leo. And in fact, my big 3 are the 3 different fire signs: Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries. So I can be a little spicy. Personally, the coolness of the blue waters is the polarity I need. But living in the Midwest, the best I can do on a regular basis is go to the lake or chill by the river, which is cool. I'll take it. So now that I've had some time off and the only symptoms I've really had are allergy-like, I'm kind of flipping my house upside down, moving things around. So I'm not recording this in the typical space of where I like to record my podcast, but it's cool. We can chill in my kitchen for a little while. And shout out to my dad and my godson for bringing and setting up my dining room table for me last week. But yeah, no worries. It's sanitized. Just bear with me as I get over this little virus that loves to try to get in the way. I've been saying this podcast has led me to reflect deeper and has pushed people, myself included, to ask me more questions, which is appreciated because you can't dive into shallow waters, and I'm by no means a shallow person. And questions help me gain perspective or give me a different perception to a perspective that I've had. And I think that is so beautiful. And I highly recommend it to anyone. But I also understand it can be a little difficult when you're first learning out how to dive. I've been reflecting on how I communicate versus how I see a lot of others communicate. And by no means am I saying that I do it the right way or that there even is a right or wrong way. But to me, communication is like love. That sounds cheesy when you say it like that. But what I mean is just because you're giving it doesn't mean you're delivering it the most effective or healthy way. I know that I haven't always. For instance, sometimes people show love in not so healthy ways. You know, condescending love, hurtful, guilt tripping. And it doesn't mean that they don't love you. They're just not showing it the healthiest way. And let me pause right there, because even if that's how someone shows love, it absolutely does not mean that's how you have to accept it. I really hope you understand that part. And that there is healthy love that's not only reciprocated, but receptive. And it doesn't have to mean you share the same love language. It just means you're willing to understand each other's. And to me, that's the same thing with communication. Just because we all tend to have our own love languages, and maybe how it's most receptive to you won't be the same for someone else, even if you have the same love language, it's kind of more personalized and individualized, you know? We all communicate differently, and I stand firmly on it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that there is indeed a time and place for many conversations. I would be bold-faced lying if I said that everything I say is the initial thought. Sometimes I have to hold back and bite my tongue. I did tell you guys I grew up with a bunch of older brothers, right? I can absolutely have a smart ass mouth that's slick and it comes with receipts, even just blunt or rude and willing to make sure I get my point across. Or will push people to say what they're holding back from saying, even if it's to quote unquote protect my feelings or me. See, I have to have like this whole internal ventilation system. And the more you know me, the less it works sometimes, depending on the situation, of course. Like the people that are closest to me know that it's in there, but often hear the less filtered versions of things. I was reminded of that the other night. I was reminded that the more raw and unfiltered versions of me aren't always gentle. And though I can very much be a say it with your chest type of girl, again, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Which is why I can say every version of me is genuinely me, but as someone that places myself in leadership roles, I have learned the importance of understanding how each individual communicates most receptively. I'll never claim being the best leader. I wouldn't be practicing what I'm preaching if I didn't know there is always room for growth, but I gotta give myself a little credit because I have had really great leadership opportunities, which have helped me grow, develop, and expand successful teams. I've had teams that have stuck with me through different seasons, and honestly, they were a huge factor in why we would even keep the ship sailing in many of those moments. We brought our business from the bottom 20% of the company to the top 20 or even 10% of the company consistently in many areas. And I'm thankful that I have never really had a high turnover rate. So I have some credibility under my belt and definitely took the time to get to know individuals. I listen and observe. Listen and observe. That's the thing about growing up with all the boys. They were a bit hard-headed growing up. So I was conditioned to have a sense of awareness that I have grown to realize isn't as common as I thought or would have even hoped. Being able to have awareness in more than a physical form. It's a chess, not checkers kind of world, but I like to play checkers. It's fun and you don't have to be so serious. So I tend to have both games going, right? I'm playing checkers, but still know the potential moves of the chess game, meaning I'm not naive to the seriousness. At least enough to know that whatever the next move may be, I'm going to be good for a checkmate. If not this round, then the next. And if nothing else, you're about to teach me something and I'll take that as a lesson, but not a loss. I say that because leading a team can be challenging, no matter the size of the team. Even if the team is just you. Sometimes people are going to say or do things that will grind your gears. And sometimes that person is you. You have no idea how many times I'm like, Anitra, WTF. Why would you say or do or even think that? I'll get too caught up playing checkers that I just wasn't aware. And that caught you off guard, whatever that may be. So I can't afford to not be aware. Now I know when I am more aware that the next move, is going to put me in position of a checkmate or it's going to be a lesson. But it won't catch me off guard because when that happens, my reaction may not be so pleasant. And that's kind of why the ventilation system is here, right? I don't like to just be an outright asshole. Some people like that and some people find comfort in it. And Man, personally, it can just be easier. It takes work to process through different ways of how to communicate something. And from experience, when you're used to communicating from your emotions rather than stepping back and taking yourself, your ego, and emotions out of it, you don't even have to think about what you're going to say because you're just going to say it. I absolutely, wholeheartedly, genuinely love making other people feel good. It makes me feel good. It's one of my favorite things and a reason I love doing all of the things that I do. But they weren't lying when they said hurt people hurt people. And whoever said words don't hurt hasn't worded them sharply. I've been on both sides of those sentences where words cut so deep you can feel it physically in your chest. Many times in my most vulnerable state, whether I was the one saying it, feeling it, or even both. And the even shittier part was that it wasn't always intentional. I didn't necessarily mean for words to come out the way that they did based off of emotions. And as an emotional person and overthinker, most definitely, I don't want people to hurt, especially the ways that I would let words hurt me. And sometimes it was me that hurt myself from other people's words, not even what they said or how they said it, but the so many ways I could have heard it or interpreted literally anything. The way I would take things so personally and let it continue to hurt me and my feelings after it replays in my head on repeat. And I don't know, this is why I try to be as thorough when I'm explaining things. I don't really want to leave room for anything more or less than I'm intending to say. I try to get to know people and their perception of different perspectives. So, yeah, the more raw and unfiltered versions of me aren't always gentle. I was talking to someone the other night, and this person is someone who conversation just flows with, and things can go deep real quick. I was talking about how I don't like when people take my gentle for soft. It's something that will get me too involved in the chess game. I'm competitive, too clumsy to be athletic, but most definitely competitive. And the person I was telling this to looked at me and was like, but you're not gentle. And honestly, it threw me off a little because I am gentle. I am intentionally gentle, and very few people know the not so gentle version of me. All I could do was chuckle when I responded, "That's fair, that's valid." It's valid, and I'm glad they know because their perspective of me is great. Definitely someone I'm very comfortable with, have opened up to, and naturally just vulnerable with. The conversations that we've had over the years, they're most definitely one of the people I would consider a safe space for me. They have also had opportunities to have a perception of me that most don't because of how we communicate and the way that they've gotten to know me. They're also someone that pays attention to my words and behaviors, and we share the same perspective of many angles. I just don't want it to be confusing. Every version of me is authentic and genuine, but not everyone has access to every version of me. So not everyone is going to have the not so gentle perception. In episode 3, I was expressing to you that I don't like to take things personally. This is how I maintain my peace in many situations, but it's also how I'm able to take myself and my feelings out of a situation in order to clearly communicate. Do you ever have those moments where you look back and you're like, I can't believe I really used to let this bother me, or I can't believe I'm not triggered by this right now? It can feel good, right? The most rewarding one for me is when something does bother me or I do become triggered by something. And instead of giving it a reaction I would have previously, I sit and I process. It gives me a sense of control of a situation that I may not even have any control over, simply because I have control over myself and my response or reaction. if I choose to give one at all. Not only does it allow me to hear people better and more clearly, which in turn allows me to see it from their perspective a little bit more gracefully, but I can also look past their delivery, especially when the delivery is not necessarily the way I would have given it. I can look at the different angles more of a situation now more than I have before, and I'm way more conscious of everything around me. That typically, if someone is being combative, my response is, are we having a conversation towards a resolution? Or is this how you're going to feel? Because I don't really have control over your feelings. I hope and try to make it clear that I'm not going to waste my breath arguing about anything that's just going to lead into the same patterns or the same circles or just bumping my head against the wall 1,000 times. But I will take the time I need in order to process and filter the situation and conversation. I try to look at it from different angles, and the better I know the person, the better direction I have when it comes to knowing how I need to communicate more clearly. But even if the encounter is something new or it's an experience I don't necessarily have experience in, I will definitely still take my time because I know the picture is typically bigger than the one I see anyways. Or maybe I even need to paint a bigger picture for somebody to clearly understand where I'm coming from. Even if it means giving a delayed response rather than an overreaction. I don't know if that's relatable, is it? I often hear how patient I am, and shout out to my God babies for teaching me more about patience in this life before peace taught me that beautiful things do indeed come to those that wait. How do you guys have healthy communication, or what's your preferred communication style? Also, how do you prefer someone to communicate to you? And does it align with your boundaries? I have a lot of questions this week, guys. But let this be a reminder that the quiet ones tend to have a lot to say, even if you're not in the position to hear it. The flower growing through the vents of this episode is an iris, to symbolize wisdom and respect. To me, healthy and clear communication comes with wisdom and respect. It's the foundation of setting boundaries, in my opinion. That being said, there's a quote by businessman Andrew Grove stating, "How well we communicate is not determined by how well we say things, but how well we are understood." I resonate with that so much. And the more I have realized that, the more I have expanded my horizons, honestly. Until next time, I should probably start posting on social media more. I need to. But anyways, I will talk to you all soon. As always, take care, stay blessed, and thank you for spending some time with me today. Bye.